Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Vanity Table. This is a podcast. I am starting to talk about all things beauty, all things vintage, anything that you love in the pretty much 30s to, I would say, even the early 2000s is not off the table. I want to just have open discussions as somebody who's been in the beauty industry since I was quite young in my 20s and I'm in my 40s now. I would say that I've got some things to talk about. Why not chat here with you? And so if you're listening, this is going to be available on Apple Podcast. I am also filming this for YouTube. So if you want to see what my makeup looks like, I will be doing a themed vintage makeup look with every episode. So if you want to see the makeup that I'm actually wearing for this podcast, you can watch the episode back on my YouTube channel, the Vanity Table Podcast. It's a new channel I just started up. I'm excited to put tons of fun makeup and beauty and vintage clothing topics over there. So buckle up, Buttercup, because we're diving in. We are going to discuss this look that I have on if you are somebody who is listening to this on a podcast and can't see. But for now, I actually wanted to discuss just a little bit about my experience in the beauty industry and where I'm at with it. I just think it would be a nice way to introduce myself, and that we will always know the first episode. If you want to know anything about where I get my experience, where I learned beauty and makeup, then you can refer to episode 1. So I actually started in the beauty industry when I was 18. I took a makeup sanitation course where you learn the basics of just how to apply makeup, how to stay clean and sanitary when you're applying that makeup, what tools to use. And we received in that class the Beauty Bible, Making Faces by Kevin O'Quan. That was our textbook, if you will. And I read that book back to front many times over and obsessed over just the idea of, gosh, how do you get to that point that Kevin O'Quan got to? How do you get to that level? I was a small town girl from Virginia. I had very low confidence. I remember the first time I went to a counter with my mom, and a Estee Lauder woman associate came up and said, "Would you like to try an eyeshadow?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I would love to." And she's like, "Oh, your eyes are so blue. I'm gonna try this beautiful gold eyeshadow with you." And she even, I think she, back then, this was a very long time ago, I'm pretty sure I remember her using the little sponge that comes in the palette. It was like a little eyeshadow duo of a dark gold and a light gold, both shimmers, from what I can recall, if I can remember this correctly. So anyway, I sat down and she put it on me, and I just kept thinking, wow, how do I get her job? How do I one day do what she's doing? I just didn't think that I fit the bill for that. I thought, I'm too like shy, I'm not outgoing, I'm an introvert, maybe, that kind of thing's just not for me. And I had no idea how I wanted to apply myself in the beauty industry. I just knew that I was obsessed with it. I was putting any eyeshadow my mom would hand me down, give me, or get from like Claire's, I would put that on all of my Little Ponies because they had decent eyelids. Funnily enough, I didn't on Barbie because she already had on makeup. So I put it on the My Little Ponies because their lips were really prominent and their eyes. But yeah, I did the My Little Pony makeup makeovers, and I loved makeup from the beginning. My mom isn't a very makeup-y person, so she's always said, "Where did you get this from?" I don't know where this came from. When I was in high school, I was the girl on the bus with the cheerleaders doing their makeup. They would be like, "Seanna, do my makeup." I loved it. I would always be putting makeup on my friends if they'd let me. It's just something that I took to makeup and fashion right away. It wasn't until my 20s that I got a job working for MAC, and I was part-time, and that's when I had to go to all the training classes and learn a lot about just basic makeup application aside from what I had already learned. And that's really where it started for me, is just that MAC counter experience. I will say I also was a high functioning anxious person, and so I really struggled with the classes. I've had a couple of panic attack situations and had to tell my teacher I think I need to leave because I feel like during basic training, I actually had to walk out of the class because I was having such intense imposter syndrome feelings and like felt claustrophobic. And she actually pulled me aside after the class and let me know that she actually struggled with anxiety as well. And it's something she had to overcome. And then she became a teacher and an educator for Mac. So I thought that was really nice. It did help me quite a bit. And I was able to finish basic training. But I will say I almost left halfway through it because I was so just overrun with anxiety. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's a whole like facade in the beauty industry. It's your customer service voice, it's your customer service personality, and it doesn't feel authentic to me. So it's hard for me to show up in the world with an inauthenticity because I do feel sometimes I'm a little bit lacking like a professional aspect of working in corporate environments. I'm very much an artist. I'm very much someone who leads with my heart and leads with my creativity. And that is very complex with emotion. And so that is why I always wondered, why don't I feel like I fit into this corporate aspect of it? And it's really hard if you're an artistic creative type to blend the two together, where you're blending corporate with your artistic expression. And I just wanted to exist in this world where corporate was removed from it, wherever that lies. When beauty videos started to come about, I was like, wow, that's it. Because if you're an introvert, but you love makeup and beauty, you can sit at home and make videos. You can do this yourself. But I watched everyone explode around me, and me still not having direction. I needed to have a job. I found the sweet spot. The sweet spot for me was being an ambassador for Smashbox, where I was given a little bit more freedom to just be an artist. Yes, I had to have sales, but I felt that if people loved what I was doing on them with their, makeup, when people come in and sit down and get their makeup done by me and on their lunch break or whatever, that moment of one-on-one with a client and no one else around. I didn't have a teacher like breathing down my neck or my manager breathing down my neck. I was able to just create looks on people and have fun with the makeup, and that really clicked with me. So I really, really enjoyed being an ambassador for Smashbox. And then I also started doing it for Tarte because most of these positions are part-time work. So sometimes you have to juggle a couple. Smashbox and Tarte also, or Smashbox, Tarte, and Pure. I did that for all three. They all allowed a little flexibility as far as your schedule, understanding that you need to be able to have more than one job. Whereas when I was trying to do freelance for Mac, they had a non-compete, so you couldn't work for another beauty brand. So it made it a little difficult to be an artist within that aspect, working freelance for them. They also want control of your schedule, which is a little difficult to be part-time. They won't offer you full-time hours as a freelancer, but they want reign of your schedule. So stuff like that really conflicted with like what I felt like was how I'm going to be able to exist in this world without having to work under the corporate umbrella. So Smashbox made it very easy for me to be able to do that, and I loved it. I loved working for them. I loved my boss. It was a really great job until COVID. The pandemic was when this all fell apart. I no longer could work with my belt. I remember actually the last person I did makeup on, she's actually a YouTuber with a cool crafting and like it's stitching, like sewing. And we still follow each other on YouTube. She was the last person that I had in my chair. And we were talking about the pandemic. We were talking about this weird flu that's going around. And I was still able to use my brush belt at the time. So we were just getting to know what this whole thing was going to be. And when I tell you how weird it was to come into work the next day and be told to not wear your brushes anymore, it removed the part of the job that I needed to survive. I needed to be able to use the brushes and do my artistic stuff. If you take the brushes away and you can't interact with the customers, then you are just a salesperson. Once the job turned into that, I lost any sort of excitement over going to work. I mean, sure, I still get to interact with people and give them advice, which I love talking beauty, so it's fine. I love having that with customers anyway. But what does this mean for us? And then lockdown. Lockdown happened, couldn't touch people at all. We walked out of an Ulta, and the manager said, I was told to close these doors and lock them, and no one's coming back until we figure out what's going on. I think that's when I realized how serious all of this really was becoming. And I was out of work, and I was laid off, both jobs, and really had no idea what was to come. Fast forward past the lockdown and all of that, I was like, well, maybe I'll get into microblading. And so I actually went and got training and certified for microblading. I would say, again, I felt a little bit out of place. I wasn't sure if this was for me because it's not creative expression. It's really just providing a service, like you're, an esthetician essentially, or somebody in the beauty industry that's more about service-based things. And if you take color away, if you take lipstick and eyeshadow and playing, then that is a huge chunk of my passion missing from the equation. I've always wanted to know how I could exist in this world where I get to have fun and play with color, and how I could do that as a job. Now, I know that a lot of people go to actual makeup school, like really amazing schools for makeup education, and get degrees in makeup artistry where you learn special effects and movie makeup and, even stage makeup, all of that. People do get full-blown educations for that. A lot of those people can also chase their dream and try to move to LA or New York or somewhere very prominent in this field. I do know a couple of people that have done it. One of my ex-managers at Ulta, actually, she was the GM. She used to be like movie and TV in LA. My first teacher in my makeup sanitation class was a television show, lived in LA, did that whole thing, makeup artist, and all I've ever heard about that life is how competitive it is. And my GM from Ulta said that when she injured herself, she had to take a few weeks off of work because she was on crutches. And she said, as soon as I took that step down, someone scooped in and took my spot. And it was very difficult to even get back into that grind because of how competitive it is. Even just like The Walking Dead, it'd be so cool to be a Walking Dead zombie makeup artist, because I'm sure there's tons of makeup artists on set to do makeup on so many zombies all at once. That looks really fun, and I did wonder if special effects and all of that would be my thing or not. But I mean, at this point, I just feel like my life exists better within a digital atmosphere. So being online and being able to talk beauty here with this podcast, I think is going to be a new adventure and a new exciting thing for me to share. So hopefully it's interesting and people get into it, because I'm so stoked to talk about a lot of these things that I'm very passionate about, and it also, talk about my experience for any aspiring MUAs. There's so many ways to get into the beauty industry, and I can do an entire episode just on like the various ways that you can get into the makeup industry. But I feel like because I'm not somebody who's actually successfully like worked in major I've worked in the corporate world, but I've not worked in a aspect, because there's so many different types of makeup artists. There's professional makeup artists who work runway, movie and TV, like I just said. There's special effects, like I just said. There's just so many ways you can do makeup. You could just be a bridal MUA, which is what I do in the summertime. Like, there's just so many different places for you to figure out what works for you and where you fit into all of that. And if you're an extrovert, especially on top of all that, and you're really good with like living within that corporate world, I'm sure that you can level up in management in a lot of these beauty brands pretty quickly. I don't really know what's going on in the makeup counters to date. Now, where I live, because I think it's going to be different depending on where you live, obviously downtown Seattle, I'm sure Nordstrom is still booming. Nordstrom has MAC downtown, it has Gucci downtown, it has Anastasia Brow Studio, it has everything there. And that flagship store I've worked there as a freelancer for MAC a few times, and that flagship store is really incredible. So if you do want to go get your makeup done, let me just tell you, the makeup artists that they had at that location are stellar. They're so good at what they do. So the downtown Mac, I've always said, is like the best place, or Sephora there in downtown in that center part of the square in Seattle has some really, really talented makeup artists working at those places. So it'd be a great spot to go play with a friend, book an appointment, go get your makeup done. You know what's crazy though? I've never had my makeup done, full face makeup, by another person in my entire life. And I really would like to do it. I hate sitting in a chair for services, which is ironic because that's all I do for other people, but I hate sitting. I don't even like to go get my hair done. Like, I just do my own hair because I cannot with sitting in a chair. I do understand that a lot of people that don't know makeup want to go get it done, and it would be interesting to see what a makeup artist would do with my face because I know my face so well. I've put makeup on my own face so many times. How weird would it be to see how other people perceived my features? So I would say I really recommend it too, even if you're an aspiring MUA, to go get your makeup done at Sephora, at MAC, at one of those locations that is known for having, you know, talented makeup artists, and have them do a look on you and kind of feel like, what are they doing? You know, are they explaining it to you, or are they just silent? Are they chatty? What are they talking about? I have a really bad habit of wanting to talk about TV shows and like their life and just what they do for work. And so I get really chatty in the sense that like I don't talk about the product unless I'm supposed to be giving a lesson. But if this is just like me doing a service, I go off on some, yeah, really crazy topics. I will talk about just about anything if someone will let me. I do think that it would be fun to do an entire episode on tips and suggestions and ideas that I have for getting started as a makeup artist. Now, again, it depends on what kind of makeup artist you want to be. So the advice that I can give is working your way into becoming self-employed, or, you know, going pro in your own way. There's a lot of things that I'm going to say I would suggest doing, whether it's to do similar to what I've done or to avoid certain things that I've done that I think weren't necessary. So we'll do that one for sure in the future. If you want to catch that episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and ask any questions that you need to in the comments down below. And I'll be sure to cover those in our themed podcast coming up. Now let's talk about the look that I have going on right now. If you haven't heard of Biba, this is actually a suggestion that one of you guys had said on one of my most recent videos. I did a makeup look and somebody said, let me pull this up. So one of you said this look is very Biba coded for Mary Quant, because I did a Mary Quant makeup look. I love that you said it's very Biba coded, because you could not have been more correct. That definitely was a Biba look because of the big open eyelashes, up and down, upper and lower eyelashes. I'm just going to describe the look a little bit so that anybody who's listening knows what I'm talking about. It's a very smoky, sultry eye. It's very heavy on dark eyeshadows. Biba, I believe, was one of the first businesses or one of the first cosmetic brands to use a brown lipstick and formulate a brown lipstick. I think that's fascinating because this was the 60s. So, and this is 60s in London. So I did actually a little research. So I had some nice facts for you to talk about Biba, Biba was actually a brand founded by a Polish designer. Her name is Barbara Huleniki. She is actually still alive. She's in her 80s now, and you can still find tons of interviews of her out there talking about the back in the day, because she really revolutionized a lot of fashion in the 60s, and then after that, following the beauty industry, the makeup looks were also very much attributed to what she was doing to get the Biba look. So in 1963, Biba quickly gained notoriety for its affordable, fashion-forward clothing that catered to a new generation of young women. Known for its distinctive Biba look characterized by a slim silhouette, long skinny sleeves, and a palette of muted, earthy tones like bruised purple, olive, and rust, Biba's designs drew inspiration from decadent bygone eras like Art Nouveau and pre-Raphaelite art. The brand's boutiques, starting with its first shop in Abingdon Road in 1964, were more than just stores. They were immersive, dimly lit experiences with Art Deco interiors loud music, and a bohemian atmosphere that attracted celebrities and fashion enthusiasts alike. Biba evolved in a pioneering lifestyle brand, eventually expanding into cosmetics, homeware, and even food, culminating in the iconic Big Biba department store in Kensington High Street. Biba captured the youthful spirit of the 1960s, making cutting-edge fashion accessible and desirable to the masses. Anna Wintour was a teenager when she went to go work at a Biba store. I think that is so cool when you think about how long. First of all, Anna Wintour has been in the fashion industry, which I believe she's just decided to take a step down as chief editor-in-chief for Vogue. She's still going to be involved, obviously. I think that's her ikigai. So I don't think if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, my last vlog, we talked about ikigai, which is your purpose in life, which you don't retire from something that is your purpose. So how is Anna Wintour ever going to really retire from what it is that she has a purpose in doing, which is living and breathing the fashion industry? People who retire, I feel like you kind of become a little bit complacent. You kind of, what are you just supposed to sit around the house and do nothing? What? No. Your purpose, your ikigai is something that is going to guide you through your life until the very end. And I think Anna Wintour's is fashion. And also the same goes for Barbara Hulanicki, who is still rocking her fashion, talking about fashion, living and breathing it. And I think it's super cool. I love looking up these historical things and finding these cool facts. I love it when people comment these things that are maybe something that I'd like to learn more about, because I've heard of Biba. I've seen the iconic image of Biba, which is the hair scarf with the big fluffy curly hair. That look I've seen before in just my vintage deep dives. The whole point of doing these vintage reels and shorts and all that is that I'm actually trying to learn more about vintage trends from back in the day. I do focus more on 50s, 60s, and 70s than I do any other eras, because those are the ones where the looks actually are very, first of all, they're coming back, and I think we can take a lot from it because we're repeating a lot of fashion and a lot of styles from these times, not even realizing that, you know, our grandmothers were doing it and our mothers were doing it, and they're probably looking at us, I know they are, like, oh my gosh, you guys, we used to do that back in the day. I can't believe that's back. So yeah, I just love that all of this is recirculating thanks to short format videos. Yeah, so anyway, thank you for commenting that. And please always, if you guys have any advice or any cool facts or things like that, I love learning. And that is the beauty of beauty. That is the beauty of makeup. You never stop learning, and never ever, you will feel imposter syndrome your entire career. You will, because you will always, always think, gosh, how come I didn't know that? There's always going to be someone better, because there's amazing artists out there. And do not let that dim how you feel, your passion about it, or make you think that you're not good enough, because that is the most defeating thing. It will make you give up and walk away from it. And that's a passion. Don't let people do that to your passion. And they're not even doing anything. They're not doing it on purpose. Just because somebody's really good at something doesn't make you not good at it as well. I gotta admit that I'm quite guilty of that myself. If you look up the Biba look, that was what inspired this today. I wanted that big fluffy curly hair with the bandana. I think bandanas are very much going to be making a splash this summer and even into the winter. Wrapping it just around your head, but having this like beautiful flowy fluffy hair. It's such a look. Also, I'm wearing brown lipstick. The one that I'm wearing today is from Mob Beauty. The color is M120 and it's a stunning brown. I actually applied it and then blotted it and applied it again, and it is so beautiful. As far as the rest of the makeup and how I got this look, I do have a short or TikTok. There's a lot of little small videos out there of me doing this exact makeup look. I went for the smoky eye look. I went for that brown lip, and I have a few upper and lower lashes with the headscarf on as well. And I think it'd be cool to get a little brooch to put just in the center of the headscarf. So if you guys are imagining this right now, if you're listening to this as a podcast, just, you know, when you're not driving, if you're driving, please don't. But if you are somewhere parked or just sitting at your house and you're curious what I'm talking about, just Google the Biba look and then you will know exactly what I mean. But yeah, it's a really fun look. I find it to be very current. I think it works now. I think going into autumn this go round this year, we're going to see a lot of these really deep, smoky, moody eyes. And I think the 60s makeup is a big focus. Twiggy, but like Twiggy goth, I think would be a really fun direction for makeup to go. Mob Beauty has some really amazing goth looking stuff happening. A lot of really cool tones, deeper tones, greens and browns, very much the Biba look type makeup. So if you're wanting to get the Biba look, I would say look into what Mob's got going on, because they've got some incredible tones out there right now. Let's talk about some trends that are going on right now that I'm loving. First of all, I think the siren eye is quite prominent right now. You're seeing that everywhere. I did a YouTube tutorial on it. I do watch Love Island, both USA and UK. I noticed a few of the girls are doing that very like sharp, almost siren eye wing look, where it goes past your tear duct and points downwards, and then it goes up into a nice lifted sharp wing on the edge of your eye. I do love this look. I think it elongates the eye, it elongates. I really love, I think it's a gorgeous, it's got that Egyptian-esque look to it, that vibe to it. It's really pretty. It's funny, now that I looked at one Love Island thread, my threads are now full of Love Island gossip chats. USA is very insane this year. They're going hard. Sometimes I'm like, Jesus, what the things that they're showing. It's borderline rated X. So it is rated X at this point. And it comes up, when you're on Instagram and scrolling, it'll show you some of the conversations going on over on threads. And a gal had said, is this really what we're doing now, ladies? I've never seen it before. What is this? And she's talking about the eyeliner. And people are very also rude. There's some intense conversation going on about the siren eye on threads, but what she was asking was, is this a look? Is this what we're doing? What do we think about this? And I didn't comment because everybody's terrifying on these threads, and I don't want to even get into this big debate about it, but I actually really like the way that it looks. And so a few of the girls on that are doing this siren eye look, and I've seen it also just trending on TikTok and trending in Reels. Girls showing the difference between, if you have really hooded eyes, doing a siren eye is a really beautiful look for somebody who is hooded, because if you're hooded, a lot of times the skin sagging can actually cause your eyes to look smaller and more closed in. So you're kind of getting two bonuses here. You're getting a lengthened look, but also if you have sagging eyelids, it will give your eyes an openness that you really can't get because of the sagging skin. So that is something I would say try. I know it's scary and intimidating and at first will look weird, but I remember, back in the day, people would come to the MAC counter, one of the beauty counters, and say, I've always wanted to try a red, but I've never liked red on me. I think that's just perspective. I think a lot of, now don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's some people out there who can try a red and just it does not fit their face. Sure. But I swear there's a red for everyone. I really do believe that. And I think it's just you're not used to seeing it. So if you usually go nude, you're a pretty minimalistic person, try to think a little bit more outside of the box, thinking I'm going more avant-garde. I'm going more model off-duty. This is my runway look. I've got nothing else on my eyes. I've kept it really simple, nothing too bold up top, and just wear the red around the house. Just get used to looking at yourself with red lipstick on. Now, I know that sounds crazy. You're probably thinking, what? But I swear, a red lip at the right time, or a dark lip, like what I have on now with this brown, or even a black, I think it's a beautiful look and you can really play with it. Nobody should ever think I can't pull off a red or I can't pull off brown. If you like it and it's for you, there's a shade out there for you. You just got to find your shade. A lot of it can be undertones throwing you off or something like that, but there's a red for everybody. So I also think if the siren eye is something that you're curious about, you want to know if it works on you, just play with angles, keep playing around with where to center that inner corner and where to lift that outer corner. Play around, I would say if you really want to practice, just get some black eyeshadow and an angle brush and practice different angles. Remove it, because eyeshadow is easier to remove. Get your makeup wipe and start again. And just do that maybe a couple of times, playing with which angle is looking better for you. And then you'll get it down. You'll also find that you can do it a lot quicker as time goes on, because you are now becoming more familiar with it. So what used to be a difficult challenge that took you a lot more time now is something you can do in 5 minutes. So I'm telling you, you know those girls on Love Island when they do that siren eye flick wing thing. I bet they do that in like less than 5 minutes because they've got the motion down and they know exactly where to put it. So it just takes time, takes practice. Another thing that I'd like to touch on at some point down the road is maybe allergies. I have a lot of beauty allergies, so I know a lot of people avoid makeup because of it. I have a crazy story about an allergic reaction that I had. I think that'd be an interesting one to talk about, as well as like ingredients. That's all I got for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this and that beauty talk is what you're into. I hopefully down the road would even be able to get guests on the show so I can talk to some people just all throughout the industry in a lot of different facets about just their experience in their profession. You know, there's people who specialize in a lot of arenas within the beauty and vintage and fashion industry. So I think it'd be really fun to keep that door open to speaking with any of those people and that you guys would want to hear those interviews. So if you do, again, just please do subscribe to this podcast on Apple and also on YouTube if you want to see the looks. I also will be putting all of the information for products we discuss, things that, you know, interviews maybe I've seen out there in the world that pertain to the topic. So anything about Biba or seeing the owner of Biba, I've seen some interviews with her. I'll link those below too, so you can look into a little bit more about it and do your own research and learn some historical cool stuff about vintage makeup. But anyway, that is all I've got for today. Thank you so much for listening in, and I will talk to you guys on the next one. Bye.